Hello friends, myself Sachin Gurule, Assistant Professor from KTHM College Nasik. In the previous lecture of the entomology first, we have seen the interrelationship of the insects with the other arthropods. And in this video, we are going to discuss that is origin and distribution of the insects. So let's see. The origin of insect dates back about 350 million years ago, presumably in a lower Devonian period. And on the basis of our understanding of arthropod morphology, the myriapods appears to be closely related to the group known as the insects. Now, of the myriapods, the Symphyla shares a more characteristic features in common with the primitive insect, and it is said that both myriapods and the insects, they arose from the common stock of or the myriapod like ancestors. The evidences of this can be seen in fact that the first instar of many diploid myriapods shows a many features which are exactly common to the insects or with the insects. For example, the head, they are provided with a 6 segment. Here in this diagram you can see this is the generalized body plan of the insect. Head composed of total 6 segment, then 3 are the thoracic segment and remaining are the abdominal segment. And this diagram is representing the generalized plan for the myriapods. Here you can see the head of the myriapods is also made up of the 6 segment as like that of the insect head. Then the remaining segments are belongs to the trunk segment. Then thorax of the insect is generally provided with a 3 segmented pair of the legs, which is also seen into the early embryonic stages of these myriapods. So these legs can be well evident on the first 3 trunk segment, that is T1, T2, T3. These are the trunk segments. Then abdomen of about 5 segments without any appendages. In the insects, it is well known that the appendages are completely lost from the abdomen except in some pterygote insect, which is known as the vestigial legs. Such a kind of the nature is also found into the early stages of the myriapods. Now further, the fact that among the pterygota, leg-like appendages which are present on the abdominal segment and that are the columbella have a shorter abdomen of the 6 segment is also the significant one. So these are the characteristic, we can say these are the common among the myriapods and the insects. Again, the presence of a pair of antennae with a variable number of the segments, and each of these segments are supplied with the muscles, is a feature which is common to all myriapods, and this character is also found into the antennae of some primitive insects, belongs to the Dipleura and the columbella. Also of the importance are the similarity of the Malpighian tubules and the tracheal tubes, and the fact that whatever echodiasis that occurs through a transverse slit on the hind border of the head in case of myriapods and other insects like that of the Protura and the columbella. So these are the common characteristics we shares in between the myriapods and the insects. So hence we can say the myriapods, this is the group which is much closer to that of the insects. Looking at the closeness of the symphylids to the insects, we found that the inverted Y-shaped epicranial suture, or this epicranial suture is also referred as the echodiacial suture, is a common to many symphyla as well as the insects. Here in this diagram you can see, so this is an inverted Y shape, the epicranial suture. This epicranial suture is well evident in many insects, and this is again a one of the common feature belongs to the symphyla. The structure of postmandibular appendages are similar as also the nature of hypopharynx in this group. So hypopharynx is also similar in case of both the symphalids and the few insects. The presence of styles, irreversible sac, they are common to the symphyla, and such a kind of the irreversible sac they are also well evident into the dipleura, and the terminal cerci of the symphyla appears correspond to those of the insects. So further, the development of the symphyla shows that they have also a trunk segment which is contributed by total 14 segments as in insects. So if you see the number of segments belongs to the insect body plan, if we add the 3 thoracic segment with that of the 11 abdominal segment, again their number of segment is 14, and same kind of the situation, that is 14 segment within a trunk, is also represented into the symphylan group. So in spite of all these common traits, the symphalids are the progonids. Progonid in the sense with their reproductive system opening at the anterior end. However, a single genus, Polyxenella, belongs to the symphyla exists, which is actually a true symphalid, is an ophistogoniad, showing the ophistogoniad condition, and hence approaches the insects, because the many of the insects, the generality is they are ophistogoniad, that is their genital opening is usually present at the posterior part of the trunk or say abdominal segments. Now all the same, the present trend is thinking towards the maintaining that the myrapods, notably the symphalids, stand closest to the insects, and many myrapods have a peculiar hexapod larva, which suggesting the origin of insect from the myriapod like ancestors by the process of neoteny. That is, the neoteny is the process where young ones they are showing the sexual precocity. So by this hypothesis, it is believed that maybe the larval stages of some myriapods, by the process of neoteny, they become an insects. So this is the well-known understand the origin of insect from the myriapod like ancestors, that is particularly the symphalids. So beside this, there are several other theories also put forth about the origin of insects, and one of the theory is Heinrich trilobiate theory of the insect origin. Now the Heinrich trilobiate theory, it suggests that insects they have developed from a marine ancestors, and that marine ancestor is referred as the trilobiates. The wings of the insects, according to this theory, would be homologous to the paranotal lobes, that is the broad lateral expansions of the sides or segments of the trilobiates. So these are the paranotal lobes. So according to this theory, the wing of the insect belongs to the pterygota. They are homologous to that of the paranotal lobes of the trilobiate, and the trilobiate also have, as in insect, a single pair of antennae. Here you can say see the single pair of antennae is also there. Then it also contains a compound eyes and the 3 ocelli, one median and two lateral ocelli. So this theory has no standing today, because it would mean that if we assume this theory, the winged insect they are arose earlier than that of the pterygote insect, and which is probably not the true thing, because the pterygote insect they are showing a most primitive characteristic features which is close to the earlier group, and then after by evolving a specialized character, the pterygote insect they are converted into the pterygota. But if you assume this theory, according to this theory, the pterygote insects are arose first, and then after pterygote insects are developed, and due to this drawback, this theory actually has no standing or rejected the origin of the insect from this from the trilobites. Now another theories of the marine origin of the insects were those which is proposed by the Hampson, who proposed their origin from the crustacean group. This crustacean group is known as the Syncardia. Then of the Crompton, who advocated that the insects are originated from the crustacean groups which is referred as the isopods. But again, all these theories are no standing nowadays. Among these theories, the theories which is of the terrestrial origin of the insect, a notable one is that of the Tilliard. So Tilliard is given a theory which is based on the terrestrial origin of the insect, who believe that both myriapods and the insects have descended from a common hypothetical ancestor which he called as the Protoptera. Means a Protoptera is a common hypothetical ancestor which is asked by the Tilliard. It gives out into the two branches. So this Protoptera broke into the two lines which is going to form the Ophistogoniata and Progonata. Progonata are those which having a genital opening into the proximal trunk segment, while Ophistogoniata are the organism which have a genital opening at the posterior part of their trunk segment. Then this Ophistogoniata again splits into the two branches, that is Chilopoda and the Insecta. And from the Insectan branch, there was a very early branching of the Columbella and Protura. So in this way, this Protura and the Columbella, these are the members of a pterygote insect. So they have evolved first, and then insects are arises according to this theory. So this the stem then divided into again enterotropic Dipleura and ectotropic Thysanura, from which arose the pterygote insects. Okay, so enterotropic Dipleura, in the sense the mouth parts which are withdrawn into the oral cavity, which is a characteristic can be found into the Dipleuron, and ectotropic in the sense in case of Thysanura, the mouth parts, they are lies outside the mouth cavity, that is Thysanura, and from this Thysanura arises a well developed pterygote insect nowadays. So this is about the theory which is given by the Tilliard, for believing in the terrestrial origin of the insects. So by discussing all these theories, we can say the myriapods seems to be a closest group of the insect, and probably the Symphyla shares a more characteristic features, and they have developed from obviously the myriapod like ancestors which is referred as the Protoptera. So this is about the origin of the insects. The next one is the distribution of insects. Now insects enjoy a wide distribution from equator to the polar region on the planet Earth. They are also found into the snowy mountains of the Himalayas. They are also present deep beneath the soil, having a subterranean habit. They are also known to found into the deserts, very hot deserts. Then they are also found into the hot spring petroleums. A few of the insects, they are also inhabiting near the crude oil. Many of the insects, they are living into the fresh water, and very few they are known from to the seawater. So this wide distribution is correlated extremely favorable conditions. So they are said to be able to withstand a condition as lower than minus 46 degrees centigrade, and they have a great migratory powers. And due to having this great migratory power, maybe actively migrating or passively migrating, they are distributed all over the world. It goes without saying that insects are found more in tropical countries or tropical region than in the other areas of the world. This is probably because of the amount of sunshine and consequent good vegetation is constant feature of the tropical region than that of the other parts of the world. So distribution is brought about by the migration, and in many cases air currents are responsible for this migration, or man himself with his craze for the expansion of the trade the world over, the spread both beneficial as well as harmful insect from one place to another. And this is one of the probable reason that's why insect has such a huge distribution on the planet Earth. So this is about a small topic, that is distribution of the insects. Then phylogeny of insects. Now phylogeny is the study of evolutionary relationship among the group of organisms which is discovered through the evidences such as the molecular sequencing and the morphology. So these are the usually tools which is used for learning or for studying the phylogeny. The insects are highly diverse worldwide group, and they have actually a very complex evolutionary history. The evolutionary relationship of the insects to the other animal group is still remains unclear, or it is not completely known yet. Although more traditionally they are groups with the millipedes, centipedes, and the evident emerging flavoring closer evolutionary ties with that of the crustacean groups. Again, in case of the pancrustacean theory, the insects together with the Remipedia and the Malacostraca, they have make a natural clade where the insects along with these crustaceans, they are, or the Malacostracan, they are put into the single taxon. The other terrestrial arthropods such as centipedes, millipedes, scorpion, and the spiders are sometimes confused with the insects, since their body plan can appear similar, sharing a jointed exoskeleton. However, upon a closer examination, their feature differs significantly. Most notably, they do not have a 6 legs, which is a characteristic feature of the adult insects. So the insects are easily can be distinguished from that of the centipedes, millipedes, scorpions, and the spider, being they are having a typical hexapod condition which is lacking in the other groups. The higher level phylogeny of arthropod continue to be the matter of debate and the research. In 2008, the researchers from the Tufts University uncovered what they are believing in the world's oldest known full body impression of the primitive flying insect, a 300 million years old specimen from the Carboniferous period. So they have revealed the presence of the insect into the Carboniferous period, which is having the age about 300 million years ago. The oldest definitive insect fossil is found into the Devonian period, and the name of that fossil is Rhinognatha hirstri from the 396 million years old, which is considered as the oldest insect fossil. So it may have superficially resembles a modern day silverfish like insects, and this species already possesses a dicondylic mandibles. Dicondylic mandibles in the sense, if there are two articulation sites which are present for the mandible with that of attaching with the head capsule, such a condition is referred as a dicondylic mandible. And whatever the fossil which is found in that ages, they are already showing a presence of dicondylic mandibles. This feature associated with actually the winged insect, and from this suggesting that wings may already have evolved at this time. Means definitely insects are, or the pterygote insects are arises much earlier than that of this fossil which is recorded, which having such a kind of the characteristic features. So thus the first insects probably appear earlier in a Silurian period. Now there are have been a total 4 super radiations of the insects that arise on the planet Earth. The first super radiation belongs to the beetles, and that super radiation happens around 300 million years ago. Then second super radiation that happens with the flies, and it is having the age of 250 million years ago. And the third and fourth, actually this super radiation as happens near about together, which is concerned with the moths and the wasps, and both these super radiation can known to occur before 150 million years ago. Now these four group of insects accounts for majority of the described species of the insect on the planet Earth. The flies and moths along with the fleas, they have evolved from the Mecoptera, and the origin of the insect flight remains obscure, since the earliest winged insect currently known appear to have been capable of the flights. Now this is one of the hypotheses. There the pterygoid insect, to protect themselves from the other predator, they climb up on the height, either on the rocks or either on the trees, and they generally tries to jump in sort of the protection and try to glide on the air. So this continuous practicing the gliding on the air for protecting themselves, it is believed that these insects may have arisen or evolved the wings for the purpose of protection, and this is the way by which the pterygoid insects may be arose. Now some extinct insect had an additional pair of winglets attaching to the first segment of the thorax, that is prothorax, for the total of the 3 pairs. Means the primitive flying insect, they contains a pair of wings present on each thoracic segment, which is not seen in a pterygoid insect nowadays, as the prothoracic wings are completely lacking, and whatever wings are present, that are restricted to the mesothorax and metathorax only. So late Carboniferous and early Permian insect order includes both extant group and the number of Paleozoic species. Now they are becomes already extinct. So during this era, some giant dragonfly like forms reached wingspan of about 55 to 70 centimeters, making them far larger than any living insect which is present on the planet Earth nowadays. And this gigantism may have been due to the higher atmospheric oxygen level that allow the increased respiratory efficiency related to the today's insect. Another probable reason, the lack of flying vertebrates could have been another factor, because there is no competition into the air with that of the insect at that ages, and this is the reason for such a kind of the gigantism can be found into the wing form of the insect in an earlier period. Most extinct order of the insect developed during the Permian period, which begins around 270 million years ago, and many of the earlier group became extinct during the Permian Triassic extinction event, which is a large mass extinction phenomenon which has happened in the history of the earth. Now around the 252 million years ago, that mass extinction is happened. In that mass extinction, many of the insects are became already extinct. The remarkable successful Hymenopteran insects, they appears as long as 146 million years ago in the Cretaceous period. But these Hymenopteran specially achieved their wide diversity most recently into the Cenozoic era, which begins in 66 million years ago, a number of highly successful insect group evolved in a conjunction with the flowering plant, which shows a great example or the illustration so called as the coevolution. Means many species of the Hymenoptera or the diversification of the Hymenopteran species, it generally occurs with the diversification of the flowering plant or the angiospermic plant, and hence the Hymenoptera and the flowering plants or the angiosperm, they are showing a good example of coevolution, that is they have evolved or increased their diversity recently in the 66 million years ago. So many modern insect genera developed during the Cenozoic period. The insects from this period are often found preserved in a umber, often in a perfect condition. So we can easily able to study the fossil of such a kind of the insects. The body plan or the morphology of such a specimens is thus easily compared with that of the modern species of the insects which are exist today. So this is about the phylogeny. So if you like this video, don't forget to like, share, and please subscribe my channel to see the further videos. Thank you very much.